Okay, so this short session is going to be all about urbanisation rates. You should already know what the word urbanisation means because we've looked at it in previous sessions. So urbanisation means the movement of people from rural areas to urban areas, so moving from the countryside to the city. And you should also understand what push and pull factors are by now. So by the end of this short session, you will know how rates of change differ between poor and rich countries. So in other words, how many people are moving into urban areas? So what proportion of change is there between those two different types of country? You'll understand why there's a difference in the rate of change and also what natural increase is. So to start off with, I'm going to show you a graph. Now this graph here shows you how many people are living in urban areas. So it's done as a percentage, so it shows you the percentage of people living in cities and urban areas. Now if we have a look at this here, and I'll write on the board, so the green line is showing the least developed regions. So these are LICs, and I'm just going to write LICs on there, so LICs, low income countries. Then this blue line here is showing you the richer countries, which are the HICs, so I'm just going to write HICs on there for you because those are the words that we would usually use. So you've got low income countries here. So this graph is showing us the percentage of people living in urban areas from 1950 to, and this is a forecast, to 2050, so over that 100-year period. So what I'm going to ask you to do in a minute is you're going to have a go at describing the changes that you can see in this graph in a paragraph, and I've written a sort of frame for you to help you. So I'm going to do this with you to show you how to do it. So to start off with, if we decide to look at the poorest countries, at the LICs, so if we have a look over here and we see what percentage lived in urban areas in 1950, we can see that that should be approximately 7%. Then if we move over to 2050, we should be able to see that this is approximately 55%. So what we want to know is we want to know how much that's changed by. So to figure that out, what we can do is if I just put LICs here, and we say 55%, take away 7%, and that should be equal to 48%. So in other words, over 100 years, there's been a 48% increase in the urban population on average in poorer countries. Let's have a little look at the HICs then, so we've got a comparison. So we'll have a look at the blue line here. So if we say this is about 53% here, and then over here in 2050, this is going to be about 85%, or exactly 85%. So we can do the same thing again. We can write HICs equals 85%, take away 53%, and that should equal to 32% change. So what this graph is showing you is that people are moving from the countryside to the cities in both rich countries and poor countries. However, the rate of change is much greater in the low income countries because it's 48%, whereas in the HICs it's 32%. So what I'd like you to do now, just while I wipe the board and you can pause the video, is I would like you to write a paragraph in your books to describe the rate of change between HICs and LICs over that 100-year period. Right, so what we can see from this is we can see that the LICs have got more people moving to urban areas. The question is, why is that? So I'm going to show you some pictures on the board here, and these pictures help to explain why the rate of change is slower in richer countries and why it's faster in poorer countries. So what might be worth you doing is having a look at the pictures now, because I'm going to go through the answers with you, and pausing the video and having a think to yourself about why you think more people are moving to the cities in poor countries as opposed to rich countries. So we have a think about that now. And now I'm going to go through some of these reasons. So to begin with, more people live in the countryside. in licks. So in poorer countries, to start off with, there are more people living there, so there are more people to move. So therefore you're going to get more people who are able to move because there are more people in the countryside, often farming in the primary sector in the first place. A second reason would be this. In high income countries, so in richer countries like where we live, farming is not as low paid, and mechanisation, the fact that we have machinery, makes it a lot easier to be a farmer, and therefore you don't have hundreds and thousands of farmers who want to go and move to the city for better paid work. Another reason would be this one here. So in high income countries, some people are actually moving back out to the countryside. So quite often people will move to the city, maybe when they're younger looking for a job, and when they're a little bit older they decide they would like a more quiet lifestyle in the countryside, and they can move back into the country, and that's called counter-urbanisation. Another reason would be that urbanisation's already happened in high-income countries. So during the Industrial Revolution, many people moved to the cities to work in factories. So therefore you've already got lots of people living in those cities. So once again, there's not as many people to move there. Another reason would be the fact that transport, roads, trains are all better in richer countries. Therefore, you don't need to live in the city. Even if your job is in a city, you could commute to the city, which means travel to the city to work. Another reason is that in high-income countries, so in richer countries, more people are able to work from home. So there are many jobs which are based around computing, office-based jobs. You don't necessarily need to actually be in work to do those particular jobs. So that would be another factor. And then finally, you've got the fact that most of the jobs and opportunities in poorer countries are in cities except farming. So there really aren't that many job opportunities for people in poorer countries if you live in the countryside, unless you want to be a farmer. And therefore, if you want to do anything else, you really do need to be moving to the city. So this gives you a variety of different reasons why people would move from the countryside to cities, but why the rate of change is different between richer and poorer countries. This is what I'd like you to do now. Oh, sorry, I forgot about this one. You've got natural increase as well, which means that the birth rate is higher than the death rate, and we'll go back to that in a minute, which is why I missed it off just then. What I'd like you to do is this. I'd like you to choose 4 of these reasons, and I'd like you to have a go at explaining them. So choose any 4, and I'd like you to explain them in as much detail as possible. So if I model one with you, so I've put one reason the rate of urbanisation is lower in high-income countries is because of counter-urbanisation. So then I can go on to say, this means that more people are migrating back into rural areas, which means fewer people in cities. Okay, so this is one of the reasons, and I've explained it. And now what I'd like you to do, you can copy that one if you'd like to, and then I'd like you to do at least 3 of your own of the other ones. Choose ones that you think you understand best. You don't necessarily need to know all of those different reasons, but you at least need to know some of them. So let's have a little look, just to finish off, at what the word natural increase means. So if I just change the slide, it says here, what do you think the word natural increase is? So I'm just going to explain to you what the word means, and then what I'd like you to do is just to copy it out. So what natural increase means is it means it's the increase in population which is not due to migration. So it doesn't mean that people are moving to an area. It means that there are more people in the area just because the birth rate is higher than the death rate. So what that means is if you imagine you've got more babies being born, that's going to increase the population, but fewer people are dying. People are living longer, less people are dying. So therefore, you get what we call a natural increase in the population size, even though people aren't moving there. Okay, so if you complete the activities, okay, then you've finished that session.